Hey guys, Kevin here. My last video I did a video about this. This is the Sony PSP Go. Now, my video was about how this is the ultimate retro gaming machine. Now, what I'm going to do in this video is just talk about the ethics of whether game emulation is right or whether it's wrong. And it's something that I think is always going to be around in the gaming world, because there's a lot of older games that you can't play, you can't buy. Let's firstly talk about newer games. Now, I've never been one to play games in emulation with current systems, so I would never go out and get an emulator, and I wouldn't illegally download games for the PS4 or for the PS3. They're too new. I've never did that. I've always bought games original. I've got all the original games. I've got dozens of digital purchases in the PlayStation Store. I've always bought original. The only time I've illegally bought games for a current system was for the Dreamcast back in the 90s. And it was basically, I was at university, I had very little money. Half my collection was legitimate games bought in the store, and the other was games that you could buy from the market. And the difference at the time was quite significant. The games were selling for £30, £40, and you could pick up these games for £2-3 each. It was really, really super cheap, and it was quite common. And it's, ironically, it did probably contribute to the system being killed. Now, but for other systems, I think most of the time when people talk about emulation, then most of the time they're not talking about illegal games. They're talking about emulating older games. And it is a sticky subject, I think, with game developers, because companies like Nintendo are quite aggressive against it and they don't want anyone to do it. My personal opinion is that I don't think there's anything majorly wrong with it per se. And the reason I'm saying that, the reason I've got that opinion is, firstly, is that the majority of the developers of these games, they're gone. You can't. Secondly, I would think another big thing, I think, is the fact that you can't actually get these games. Now, if you're going to go down the hardware route and just buy these games off from eBay, you'd have to get an older system. You'd have to hook it up to the TV, buy all these converters to make sure it all works okay on your current TV, and you would have to get the physical game. Now, from a practicality point of view, I'm trying to stop accumulating so much junk, so it's not, I don't want to really get into game collecting as such, but I think from a practicality point of view as well, if you look at when you buy games on eBay, the original game developers or Nintendo or Sega, they're not getting any money anyway. You're simply trading a game with another gamer. You're just buying another game. You're not buying something new from the retail store. It's out of sale. It's not in retail anymore. So, I don't know. I think the argument that you're taking money away from the developers, I'm not sure that's correct or such. Another thing would be, though, to counter that argument, would be that Nintendo and Sony and other developers, the licenses for games have been bought by other people, and we're seeing all these games being released in mobile format or released by Nintendo and things like that. I have found, though, that Nintendo, I think that the pricing for retro games is ridiculous. Some of even their NES games, they're asking for £7, £8 sometimes for games that were released 25, 30 years ago. And I think that's insane, really. But really, if they own the license, that is their right to do so. One of the things, though, I do, although I personally prefer to own the physical disc, and as I say, I'm trying not to accumulate as much things, because it just kind of clogs up my house, but I prefer to have the physical discs for games. I think downloading games isn't always a solution. I don't think the way that the game stores are doing it, handling digital sales is great. I'm maybe going off a little bit off topic here, but I think one of the reasons that I don't want to always, I have downloaded a couple of retro games. I'll just point that out. I bought the re-release of certain games like Mega Man and Bionic Commando, things like that for the PlayStation. But I don't know. I just think that buying all my games digital is not the way that I want to go. There's a lot of reasons for that. One is, when you buy games digitally, you don't really have many rights, as far as a consumer. For example, if for any reason Sony or Nintendo just closed my account, I wouldn't have access to all the games I've purchased over the years, and that could be hundreds or thousands of pounds worth of games. I noticed that this kind of came to the forefront last year, or in fact it was this year. I bought Worms for the PS3. It was the latest Worms game, and it wasn't working. There was something in the game that wasn't working, and I said to them, like, this team multiplayer thing that they advertise isn't working. So I says to Sony PlayStation, I said, what's going to happen? I've emailed the developers. Team 17 never emailed. They emailed me back, says they'll get back to me. They never did. And I says to Sony, I say, listen, look at the game. I've not played it yet, apart from 2 minutes to check the game. And they says they can't do refunds and all that kind of thing. Right, okay. The issue wasn't the money. The issue was that I bought something which was terrible and I couldn't get the money back. It wasn't so much the money, but it just kind of highlighted the fact that you've got no rights as a consumer, when it comes to digital games. Since then, I have actually bought the newer Worms game for the PS4. I've downloaded other games as well, so I still will buy digital only games. What I'm trying to say is, I don't think the solution to this is just to re-release all the games digitally. I think a lot of retro gamers, the issue is not about owning the game, or it's not about, having this big catalogue of games. It's really just to have a quick blast of a game that they enjoyed as a kid, and I personally don't think there's anything majorly wrong with doing that. Just having a system where you can play some of your old favourite games you had as a kid. But I understand the legal ramifications, all that kind of thing. But I'm waffling on a little bit, but I'd like to hear your opinion on this. I think I'm of the opinion that if you're talking about older systems, really older systems where you can't buy the games in physical anymore, games where you can't even get them on eBay, if you're going to buy certain Nintendo games or SNES games, you have to pay a lot of money for them because they're so hard to get. And I think it's a shame that people can't play these games, anymore. And the amount of digital games from that era that are re-released or have been rebooted and things like that is quite limited when you look at the full catalogue. But again, I think I maybe get off on a little bit of a tangent with the digital games, but I would like to hear what you think about emulation. Do you think emulating games is okay? If you're going to emulate, do you think it really comes down to time? So as I say, I'm not looking to download games illegally for the PS3 or PS4 or anything like that. But I think when you're talking about games that were 20, 30 years, released 20, 30 years ago, where you can't play them any other way but through emulation, then is that a bad thing? It's also worth noting, you can tell with the way that I'm talking here is that the people that do emulate games, they are the people who buy games as well. I'm someone who emulate games, but I also buy games. I buy games digitally and in the physical media, discs. I plan on buying other systems. I always will. So I don't think there's anything majorly wrong about it, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. What do you think about game emulation? Is it right? Is it wrong? Ethically? Is it something you do? Is it something you're looking to do? I think Nintendo and Sega and things, I think they've realised there's a big market for this. We're going to see the re-release of the little NES system and things like that, and that is something I'm going to buy because I do love retro gaming. And I think the companies, they're not attacking it as much as they did years ago. If you look at, read between the lines, they're not going after gamers as much. And I think they should, I hope that they do have an understanding that people who emulate games, they're just gamers and they just want to play games that they normally can't. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, so please do leave a comment in the comment area below. I'd love to hear what you think about this. And if you've enjoyed the video, please do consider sharing, liking or subscribing. Till next time, guys. Thanks for watching.